Pravistam Nija Chakravartate Nishyamya Vartam Anat Priyam Tata Sarasanam Samyuga Sodir Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vashat Kalim Parishtam Nija Chakrati Nishyama Vartam Anat Priyam Tata Sarasananam Samyuga Samitir of the day Situ Vacha Yada Parishkit Kuru Jangalayas Vat Kalam Parishtam Nija Chakravartate Nishyama Vartamanit Priyam Tata Sarasanam Samyuga Samidir Adade Situ Vacha Yada Parishke Kuru Jangale Alphasat Titate Nishyamya Vartamanat Priyam Tata Sarasanam Samyoga Samidir Adade
Sutuvacha
Vacha
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vashat
Yada Parikshat Kuru
Klim Pravishtam Nija Chakravartate
Alim Pravishtam Nija Chakravartate
Shamyavartam Anatipriyam Tata
Shamya Vartamanit Priyam Tata
Shrasanam Samyuga Shondiradade
Sarasanam Samyoga Samatirate
Sutu Vacha
Situ Vacha
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vasat
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Avasat
Kaling Bravishtam Nija Chakravartite
Kalim Pravishtam Nija Chakravartate
Nishamya Vartam Manati Priyam Tataha
Nishyamya Vartamaniti Priyam Tata
Sharasanang Sangyuga Shondiradade
Sarasananam Samyoga Samadirade
Sutta Uvacha
Sutu Vacha
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vasat
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vasat
Kalim Pravishtam Nija Chakrivartate
Kalim Pravishtam Nija Chakravartate
Nishamya Vartam Anti Priyam Tata
Nishamya Vartamanit Priyam Tata
Sharasanam Sangyuga Shondiradade
Sarasananam Samyoga Samidiradade
Sutta Uvacha
Situ Vacha
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vasat
Yada Parishkit Kuru Jangale Vasat
Kalim Pravishtam Nija Chakravartite
Kalim Pravishtam Nija Chakravartate
Ishangyavartam Ananti Priyam Tata
Nishamya Vartamanit Priyam Tata
Sharasanang Sangyuga Shondir Adade
Sarasananam Samyuga Samidiradade
Sutta Uvacha
Situ Vacha
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vasat
Yada Parishkit Kuru Jangale Vasat
Kalim Parishtam Nija Chakra vartite.
Kalim pravishtam nija chakravartate.
Nishamya varta mananti priyam tata.
Nishamya vartamanit priyam tata.
Sharasanam samyuga shondir adade.
Sarasananam samyoga samajiradade.
Sutta Uvacha
Sutuvacha.
Yada Parikshit Kurujangale Vasat
Yada parishkit kuru jangale vasat.
Kalim Pravishtam Nida Chakravartite
Kalim pravishtam nija chakravartate.
Nishamya Varta Manati Priyam Tata
Nishamya vartamanit priyam tata.
Sharasanam Samyuga Shondiradade
Sarasananam samyoga samdiradade.
Sutta Uvacha
Sutuvacha.
Yada Parikshit Kuru Jangale Vashat
Yada parishke kuru jangale vasat.
Kalim Pravishtam Nija Chakravartite
Kalim pravishtam nija chakravartate.
Nishamya Vartam Anati Priyam Tata
Nishamya vartamani priyam tata.
Sharasanam Samyuga Sandir Adade
Sarasanam yoga samsiddhiyadade. Does everybody ever turn and run online? Okay, we do the word by word synonyms. Sutta Vacha. Sri Goswami said, Yada, when, Prishkit, Mars Prishkit, Kuru Jangale, in the capital of Kuru's empire, Avasat was reading Kalim, the symptoms of the age of Kali. Varishtam entered Nija Chakravartate within its jurisdiction. Nishamya, thus hearing. Vartan, news. Ani Priyam, not very palatable. Tata, thereafter. Sarasanam, arrows and bows. Samyuga, having gotten a chance for. So he, material activities. Adade, took up. Translation, Sutta Goswami said, while Maharaj Prishket was residing in the capital of the Kuru Empire, the symptoms of the age of Kali began to infiltrate within the jurisdiction of his state. When he learned about this, he did not think the matter very palatable. This did, however, give him a chance to fight. He took up his bow and arrows and prepared himself for military activities. Purport: the state administration of Maharaj Prishket was so perfect that he was sitting in his capital peacefully, but he got the news that the symptom of the age of Kali had already infiltrated into the jurisdiction of his state, and he did not like the news. What are the symptoms of the age of Kali? They are 1. Illicit connection with women. 2. Indulgence in meat eating. 3. Intoxication. And 4. Taking pleasure in gambling. The age of Kali literally means the age of quarrel, and the above-mentioned 4 symptoms in human society are the root causes for all kinds of quarrel. Maharaj Prishket heard that some of the people of the state had already taken to these symptoms, and he wanted to take immediate steps against such causes of unrest. This means that at least up to the regime of Maharaj Prishket, such symptoms of public life were practically unknown, and as soon as they were slightly detected, he wanted to root them out. The news was not palatable for him, but in a way it was, because Maharaj Prishket got a chance to fight. There was no need to fight with small states because everyone was peacefully under his subordination. But the Kali Yuga miscreants gave his fighting spirit a chance for exhibition. A perfect Kshatriya king is always jubilant as soon as he gets a chance to fight, just as a sportsman is eager when there is chance for a sporting match. It is no argument that in the age of Kali, such symptoms are predestined. If so, then why was there preparation for fighting out such symptoms? Such arguments are offered by lazy and unfortunate men. In the rainy season, rain is predestined, and yet people take precautions to protect themselves. Similarly, in the age of Kali, the symptoms as above mentioned are sure to infiltrate into social life, but it is the duty of the state to save the citizens from the association of the agents of the age of Kali. Maharaj Prishkit wanted to punish the miscreants indulging in the symptoms of Kali, and thus save the innocent citizens who were pure in habit by culture of religion. It is the duty of the king to give such protection, and Maharaj Prishkit was peacefully right when he prepared himself to fight. Oh yeah, so this is a nice purport, a nice verse. Yeah, I was studying up on this verse. Prabhupada gave a lecture on this. So he mentioned a few things. Is that just like in the purport, is that the states were all subordinate and there wasn't any need for Maharaj Prishkit to fight. But then he got the chance to fight, so as it's stating here in the purport. So he was jubilant. He got the chance to fight, so he prepared himself, just like a Kshatriya would, with his chariot and bows and arrows, and to go chastise Kali. And then just like what Prabhupada was mentioning here in the purport here, he was saying up to about 5,000 years ago then, these 4 pillars of sinful life were unknown to society. That's the illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. So no one knew these things. So the quarrel comes about from these 4 sinful activities. These are the 4 pillars of the platform of Kali, Prabhupada was saying, like that. So as the platform of Kali has 4 pillars, these are the pillars of sinful life. So then the pillars of pious religious life are truthfulness, and that corresponds with no gambling. And then mercifulness, that corresponds with no meat eating, not killing the innocent animals. And cleanliness, and that corresponds with no illicit sex. And then austerity, that corresponds with intoxication. So virtually all these things are absent in society then. No truthfulness, virtually no truthfulness, cleanliness, austerity or mercifulness. Then we're reading that the first signs of a demoniac rascal leaders is that the cow is slaughtered and brahminical protection is not protected. So that's what Maharaj Prishkit wanted to do. He wanted to see that all the prajas there in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is saying that there's the father and the spiritual master and the husband. These persons, they're to see that their subordinates are God conscious. So I believe it's also the king or the president, the ruler, the father, the spiritual master, and the husband. To see that their subordinates are becoming God conscious or Krishna conscious, like that, not allow them to endanger themselves into gliding further into hell. So that's what the whole duty of the king was, to keep the citizens from falling into hellish conditions and going to hell in the afterlife. But nowadays, the government, they don't care. Prabhupada was saying is that he was a chemist, so he was saying he was getting this pure alcohol. It's absolute alcohol. It was what's it, rupee? He said it was 1 rupee. So then the government, they know, right? And you have to get this under license. You have to, be authorized to be able to purchase this and have this. And then He says the government, they're so rascal. So they say that they know that a drunkard, he'll drink at any price. So they take the same 1 rupee absolute alcohol and it's processed and made into whiskey. And Prabhupada said, well, I guess it's a little bit of a process. He said, not too hard. Basically adding some flavor to it, or he said something else. Maybe distill it another time or something, add some flavors and something to it. And so then they increased the price to 60 rupees. So the same thing that was 1 rupee is now 60 rupees. So they're making enormous profits. They say, okay, so we make profit, then and come take whiskey and go to hell, like that. So that's the policy of the current leaders today. Is that for their profit, then they'll do anything. They're not concerned about the afterlife. And Prabhupada was saying we're all carried by the waves of material nature. And he quoted a verse, Bhagavad Gita quotes quite a few verses. I believe this one was from the 2nd chapter. But all the living entities, we're all carried about by the waves of the modes of material nature, carried away by Maya, by illusion. So he says they don't even know that they're being carried away by illusion, by Maya. And neither do they even care, nor do they want to know. Yeah, that was a good point that Prabhupada says, neither do they even want to know. Like that, they don't. So it's just if you try to preach to a demon or try to give a demon good advice, he only just becomes angry. So we avoid the demons and try to approach those who are innocent by nature. Of course, we approach everyone, like that. And as soon as you see that someone's like demon, then immediately leave that place. If he blasphemes the spiritual master, the holy name, or blasphemes the books, and one shouldn't hear this. You should immediately leave, like that. And so that's today's society. So Prabhupada was also saying, this word chakra, right? So Prabhupada was saying a chakra means a circle. So what was it, Chakravarti, he says that the king is the kingdom is this good? Oh, a little closer. Okay. So then the kingdom is in the center of the jurisdiction of the whole area that the king rules. So he's in the center, like that. And I was thinking that's like the position of the deities in the temple. Everything's centered around the deities as the actual proprietor in the temple worship, our devotional service. So that's real nice. Krishna is pleased when the devotee chants the holy name. So we have the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So it's kind of nice too that Krishna is not different from his name. But Krishna is pleased when the devotee sincerely chants his name. So we're initiated to chant 16 rounds on our Japamala beads and chant kirtan, like that. And plus it also purifies our consciousness, it purifies the atmosphere. Anyone who hears the name of Krishna is benefited. Krishna, Rama, and Hari. Like there was something that's called the Vishnu Shrasanam. And so they were saying like, if you chant Krishna once, it's like the same benefit as chanting Rama twice. Or if you chant Krishna, it's like chanting 10 names of Vishnu. Like that. So there's like a merit and point system on all the different names of God and Krishna, like that, and how many like points there are, like that. So then Krishna is the most purifying name. And let's see. So what else on that? So Maharaj Brisket got the chance to fight, so he went to go subdue the Kali, and he sends them away to where all sinful activities are present, where there's illicit sex, there's meat eating, there's gambling, and there's intoxication. So gambling's a really bad thing. You can lose everything. the gambling match with the Kurus and the Pandavas. They lost their kingdom. Well, it was unfair. It was they knew that Yudhisthira wasn't expert in gambling or throwing dice, and I forget the name. I think it was just on the tip of my tongue. The name of the Kuru. He is expert at throwing dice and at cheating, like that. So it was a plan. It was a plan arranged to take away the kingdom from the Pandavas, and then so they bet their wife. And they took their wife away. They took Draupadi away, and then tried to insult her. So they all went to the forest. They were along with Draupadi. They went to the forest, and so there were so many different arrangements made out there. They told Dravasa Muni that the Pandavas were out there, so Dravasa Muni and so many thousands of his disciples were on their way to their hermitage, and they had just finished eating. Draupadi had a pot that can give unlimited amounts of prasadam until she eats, and then when she eats, then it's done. So Krishna found just one remnant of a grain of rice, and so or some vegetable, and so he took that and he was satisfied. So then Dravasa Muni and thousands of followers started going the opposite direction. They were completely satisfied. But this was a plan. This was a plan because Dravasa Muni, they knew that Dravasa Muni can give great benedictions. In fact, I believe it was Dravasa Muni who gave the benedictions to Queen Kunti to have their children from the demigods, and call upon a demigod like that. And so Surya was Karna's father, and Indra is Arjun's father, and then Bhima, I believe Vayu, the air, was Bhima's father, like that. So, but Dravasa Muni can give terrible, devastating curses. You have a question? Maharaj wants to make a comment.
Thank you. The king or the administration has a right to enforce the laws, and it's supported by all the other, as you nicely mentioned, the other leaders of society, including the brahmanas, fathers, the teachers, and things like that, so that across the whole society it's understood that these things are detrimental to the society, and therefore they uphold the law that if you don't follow these laws, then you'll have to use force against you. And they agree with that up to a certain point. Like now, they agree that certain things shouldn't be allowed. And so if someone does them, one person or a group of people, then they physically enforce them as they administer punishment. So the system is set up, unfortunately, because we don't have the Varnashram system properly in place, understood. We don't know what the qualifications of an intellectual are. So the intellectuals don't really know what to do. The Parliament and the Senate, they're supposed to be like brahmanas, because they're passing the laws, and then the other parts of the government, they enforce the law. But if those so-called thinkers don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done, then there's no hope for the government to administer properly punishment or enforcement. If the intellectual class is well versed in Vedic knowledge, if the Kshatriyas or the administrative leaders are qualified in the sense that they're willing to uphold the right thing and risk their lives in any circumstance for the right cause. But it begins with the brahmanas and the intellectuals, because it's like a body has 4 parts: head, the arms, the belly, and the legs. But if the head is not in good order, the head doesn't work properly, then it can't lead the society. So there have to be brahmanas. We have people that have the potential to become brahmanas in society, but they're not given a chance. At least not in a systematic way by the society and the government. Fortunately, in some places, it's legal to have the views that we have Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're thankful that in many countries of the world, it's allowed to distribute the books and to have classes and speak truthfully about what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So we're thankful Prabhupada liked America in that regard, that they've given him full facility to expand his movement. And that's certainly true. For America, with a humble beginning, Prabhupada now has thousands and actually millions of followers all over the world. So we're thankful for that. Although we sometimes appear to be anti-government, we're not anti-government. We like the government. We just like them to perform their duties in the most perfect way. And certainly if they hear from Krishna and Krishna's representatives, then those who are very intelligent will understand and they can lead the world. And everyone will be able to go back to Godhead very easily. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, the society is a headless society. It doesn't have a head like that. Because the head of the brahmanas, and like what Maharaj was saying, the intellectual class, that would be Parliament and Congress, and they're passing the laws. So they're simply just Sudras. They're supposed to be the arms of society, the Kshatriyas, administrators, the leaders. You know, supposed to be a head and intellectual part of the body. So, and yeah, and that's a good point too, is that we're not against the government, but God-conscious government. Prabhupada was also saying in this lecture, he was saying, so in just a few years, you'll be able to get rid of all sinful activity, all illicit sex, all meat eating, all intoxication, and all gambling. He said, oh, so you're agent of Kali, you perform simple activities? Okay, sentenced to death, like that. So illicit sex, sentenced to death, intoxication, sentenced to death. And then Prabhupada was saying, and in this way, within just a few years, there'll be no more crime, there'll be more sinful activities. I don't know if that we'll be able to do something like that. It's kind of radical. They've abolished capital punishment even for murder. So it occurs in some states, I think like Texas or something, but it's still not that often. It's like really big news when they had killed a murderer or someone on death row. You know, they tell you what methods, procedures. I know usually lately they've been doing this lethal injection. But yeah, they've considered that to be a little more humane, but it's a series of shots to shut down the body. It's very, very painful and time consuming. And, you know, at least they were saying like the guillotine is sharp and it was really high. It was big and high and heavy, and it's really, really fast, and it's a clean cut. You don't feel anything. So they said there's like no pain. It's really quick. But at any rate, yeah, capital punishment's pretty much been abolished in the United States. So now, and everybody kind of, all the criminals think, well, what's the worst thing that can happen to you? Right? You can go to jail for 6 months. You can go to jail, be let out on probation for 6 months. Jai Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, right? Or be put on probation for 3 years, and then if any time during that violation of probation, you could just go to prison again. Just go to prison for a longer period of time, then you'll get let out for good behavior. They need more room for more criminals because they have more criminals than they have prisons and prison cells. So they say, what's the worst thing that can happen to you, right? So they're thinking, well, at least you're not going to die, right? You'll live like that. So that's probably pretty much the problem, is the rules. Prabhupada was saying in the verse that I gave class on last week in this class, is that if no one dared to steal, if they saw something lying on the road, they didn't take it, they didn't touch it, it belonged to somebody else, it's somebody else's property. So anyone would be known if they were seen by these signs, is that for stealing, the government would cut off your hand, right? So they can tell, when they see this person with his hand cut off, it's by the sign and say, oh, this person is a thief, like that. So that's how it would be known, by his sign, like that. So that no one would dare to steal. First of all, you get your hand cut off, then everyone will know by the symptoms, like that. So so those are really good points. It's in the present state of society, is a godless civilization. So it's the blind man leading other blind men into a ditch. So there was Prabhupada was saying east meets west. So if you take the east can see, but he's lame, and the west is blind, but he can walk. So if the blind man helps the lame man, then they can both work together with perfect transcendental spiritual knowledge, vision, and with the facilities of opportunity, like that. So yeah, there are many countries in the world. There's Russia, before they so-called became not communist anymore. Then China, I believe you go to China for prison and get death sentence for preaching Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada was talking about he was entering Russia, and they were he was at customs, and they were going through his suitcase, and he came across this Bhagavad Gita. They were thinking, oh, what is this? What is this? Or go get someone, go, right? So they brought the supervisor, the chief constable, right? And they come and they take a look at it and examine its contents. Prabhupada's thinking, oh, here I am, I can go anywhere. They can send me anywhere in the world, maybe even Siberia, like that, entering their country. So Prabhupada said, this was his good fortune, this was Krishna's mercy. They said, oh no, there's nothing threatening about this. You know, let them go, let them through, like that. So Prabhupada was talking about that also at the borders. It's like the dogs are barking at the fence of the gate. There's the sign, beware of dog, no trespassing. Here's the dog, bark, bark, row, row. You're like, yeah, row, row. Who are you? What do you want? Why are you coming here? Go away, row, row, row. So he says just exactly like that when you come to customs. Okay, who are you? What do you want? Why are you coming in the country? How much money have you got? You know, row, 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 row. Yeah. So, I don't know, were there any other questions or comments or anything else that we could? So, yeah, so we can pray that the leadership, the parliament and Congress, the laws makers and the rulers, the presidents, prime ministers, they'll become God conscious, and we can have a God conscious society like that. Okay, you have a comment, question?
Hare Krishna, can I make a comment, Prabhu?
Sure.
I wanted to say something about Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse. As you're reading it, I had this thought in my mind of, okay, Prabhupada says here, it is no argument that in the age of Kali, such symptoms are predestined. And I immediately thought, oh, then, what's the point in trying to fight, the symptoms of Kali? And immediately I felt so embarrassed because Prabhupada says here, such arguments are offered by lazy and unfortunate men. And I was thinking, oh gosh, I'm so lazy and unfortunate just to think like, yeah, it's going to happen anyways. Why even try? So I just wanted to share that comment. And so.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a real good point. Yeah, so at least we're doing something about it. We're taking the Krishna consciousness. So, it's, what was it? Prabhupada was saying the impersonalist, he goes to the cave in the Himalayas to meditate and become liberated moksha for himself, right? But the devotees, we're dedicated to spreading God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, not only just, following the program for ourselves, but for the whole world as well, and to distribute this knowledge as well. So it's not, oh yeah, because Prabhupada was talking about what's real self-interest. They don't know what their self-interest is. But real self-interest is become Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. And then the actual real problem is the birth, death, disease, and old age, the problem of death, dying no more death, like that. Yeah, so yeah, that's a real good point, a real good comment. So that's one's real self-interest has become God consciousness, and it's in everyone's interest for the benefits of all of society. Yeah. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam class, Ki Jai.